Happy Thursday. Welcome to Throwback Thursday on Adam Loves the Man. That's right. Just because we're all status now doesn't mean we can't be fun and cool and hip. I mean, look, I've got an Adidas baseball cap. I've got a hoodie on. Now you might think, hey, because it's Iraq Veterans Against the War, that's a little unusual, Adam. I mean, your positions have really changed over the years. Are you still still an Iraq veteran against the war? Well, actually, yes, I am. I'm still an Iraq veteran. Obviously, that didn't change. But in terms of my new outlook as Adam Loves the Man, I'm actually more in line politically with the typical member of Iraq Veterans Against the War from back in the day, who was I really was the turd in the punch bowl as one of the voices of libertarianism in the anti-war movement. By and large, it was very, very, very status dominated, and so I think while my positions have gone through a 180, I'm still against the Iraq War, just for different reasons. Having been there myself and seen the loss of American lives, I'm really against the Iraq War because we didn't just bomb the Middle East to glass. I don't know if that's really necessary. I trust our political leaders to decide what's best to get us all onto the same page globally. With global policies through the United Nations, so that eventually we have no war at all. But what I really want is so that, I want to end all the wars, I want to end all the conflicts and end all the rebellions so that we can have a single unified global government. And that's what's going to get humanity marching forward together in lockstep, in unity. That's what this is all about. And so, the war in Iraq, when you do the numbers about how much it costs to kill each person, you go, wow, this isn't really efficient. And when I say I trust our leadership, I mean, in this case, when it comes to, are we going to bring the whole world together, or are we going to succeed in our statist quest to unify humanity under one authority? Some people need to be killed. So and if our government decides that they need to die, then they should die, and our governments should carry out those wars or executions or genocides, whatever you want to call them, as efficiently as possible. And so it's when I look back, at the war in Iraq as a statist, it's very disappointing because of its inefficiency and the fact that the United States government didn't really it didn't really do enough rebuilding, because what we should have done, even if you accept the premise that the war in Iraq was a good thing or was necessary, then we really failed to capitalize on the opportunity to bring statism to Iraq. And not just any kind of statism, I mean the best kind of statism, America-flavored statism. We could have had, a real carbon copy of the American government installed over there, managed over there, run by Americans by Americans for Americans, but for the greater good of humanity, and if they decide, later at some point, we have to kill every Iraqi, not just the rebellious ones like happened, then they can do that later. Again, I defer to the judgment of the military and our military planners, and just to be on the same page as Donald Trump. I'm against the Iraq War, obviously, for a lot of the same reasons as him. And because our current military leadership now, as we see so many people appealing to, is against the Iraq War, looking back on it, saying that it was a bad idea. I want to make sure that I'm in line with them. And so also, this brings me more in line with, like I said, the rest of the membership of Iraq Veterans Against the War, who are definitely statists themselves and have some vision for using government more effectively. So we're gonna have some fun with this today. Welcome to the show. Yes, this is our exciting little throwback Thursday, and we get to we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun. One of the things we're gonna do, we're gonna take the world's smallest political quiz, and the world's smallest political quiz is it's really a libertarian scam. Don't worry, I'll get into it. We're gonna do this with Comment Jim when we get to that part of the show in just a few minutes. First, of course, our promotions. I want to say thank you to our corporate sponsors with cigarfederation.com. If you go to cigarfederation.com, you can enter promo code ADAM10, ADAM10, and get 10% off your order. Really great company. I got involved, of course, with my staff sergeant from Rock, Staff Sergeant Kelly, and happy to say that he saved my life more than a few times. Let's make them debate up there on the screen there too, CJ. This is a lot of fun, and after the first debate was such a success, I'm a little disappointed that we haven't had more, that we haven't had more action. No, get that full screen. I want people to be able to really see the details on that. There's a really cool system here where you can create debates, you can sponsor debates, you can make them happen. I'm truly honored to have a debate manager now. I think it's because what I'm proposing is such a beautiful use of government violence that people really rally to my side right now, are rallying. People are watching Adam. I mean, Adam versus the Man was such a loser compared to Adam Loves the Man. Adam Loves the Man is getting such a bigger audience because people support statism. I mean, it's the status quo. Like we like to joke about it like that for a reason. I know. Did you get that? Like it's status quo, but status. You see what I did there? Yeah. So the status quo is obviously always going to be way more popular, and that's one of the ways that we get to the truth is with that appeal to popularity. I mean, if the majority is right about something, or the majority is taking a position on something, they're probably right about it. So we've got exciting guests today. A candidate from South Dakota running for some libertarian office. He's going to look really dumb. I think his name is CJ Abernathy, something like that. He's just, oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is going to be entertaining, guys. Buckle up. So we have some people joining us in the Producers Club. Thank you very much. We are keeping that going. If you want to be a part of this quest for truth with Adam Loves the Man, check out our website, Adam Loves the Man. Click on Patreon. That'll take you to our Patreon page. For $10 a month, you can join the Producers Club. And with that being said, I guess that's it for our announcement. Let's get Comment Jim on stage. Do we have? Yeah, I know it's early in the show. I got through my opener pretty fast there, Jim. But do we have any comments worth responding to yet?
We have a comment that you can respond to. Good morning, fellow statists.
Good morning, fellow statists.
Yep, that's all we got.
Yeah, I think we should use this more. The statist salute. Jim, you're pretty good at that. Where did you learn how to do that?
The Army.
That's it. It's those Army values shining through. So, Jim, we got some news to get through today. Fortunately, it looks like despite what some of those fear-mongering conspiracy theorists, libertarian idiots might have you believe, things are pretty calm right now. The government has things under control. We're pretty excited about the election coming up next Tuesday. Everything looks like it's going to unroll according to plan. And I'm still, the big dilemma here though is that I'm still confused. I still can't choose who to vote for between Trump and Biden. I mean, obviously, I'm never going to vote for Jorgensen, the Libertarian candidate. That would be throwing your vote away and just a total waste of time. But between Trump and Biden, they're both such great candidates. I really have a hard time deciding which one is going to be able to better apply the levers of government power. So why don't we start today's show trying to answer that question? I want to take comments from the audience on this as well. I've been really disappointed this week that there aren't more positive comments about our great leaders, Trump and Biden. And I know people think, well, Trump's our great leader. Who the heck is his challenger? And having a challenger in your political process like this is an important way for us to figure out the best way forward for society. And I don't want people to forget that Joe Biden is a great American hero who has spent many, many years as a successful Democrat senator growing government. Just almost, as he said, his name has been on every crime bill. He's helped grow and vote for every growing government budget. He's been leading the charge in growing government, and so he's got some chops to compare to Trump here, where Trump is just generally continue the trend of government growing, and some people think that inherently Democrats are more dependent on this, but like CJ showed us, our producer CJ, not our guest CJ, different one. It showed us that image on screen when we were talking about this a couple days ago, with how government has grown based who was president with the colors with red and blue bars. Obama actually oversaw a shrinking in the budget of the federal government, and that's just talk about betrayal. Democrats, they really have this strong message of we're going to grow government, and when they don't, it's kind of a disappointment. Whereas with the Republicans, they say we're going to shrink government, but they don't mean it, right? It's just like it's part of their messaging. So we really it's like when I see these two candidates going at it. Jim, did you watch the debates like a good American?
Yes. Yes, I hinged on every word.
Yeah, and it's really tough as a statist watching these political debates, because it's like watching mom and dad fight. And for anybody who experienced that, I'm sorry to invoke that traumatic imagery, but if you did experience that, there is an important takeaway: is that families aren't enough, communities aren't enough, parents aren't enough. We have to depend on a bigger structure of authority in our lives, and that's what government is for, to be like the super parent of our lives. So, Jim, why don't you help me out with this, and we'll get to some comments. I'm sure we're going to have some comments on this later, but let's go ahead and pull up the world's smallest political quiz, shall we?
Okay. All right.
All right. So I saw this. Someone when they saw the new Adam Loves the Man, they said, Adam, we really want to see where you're at politically, and we want you to take the world's smallest political quiz from theadvocates.org. And I don't think I ever really understood this test. I used to be a fan of this, but I really only supported it because it looked like libertarian propaganda to me. And now I really understand how inaccurate it is and how biased it is. But what I want to prove to everybody really with this segment is that statism can overcome libertarian nonsense with sound reason and logic. So we're going to go through it, and you can see this at theadvocates.org. And if you click on political beliefs at the top, the first, can you click on that and pull that, or just hover over that and pull the drop down over where it says political beliefs at the top there? They list libertarian as the first one. And you're like, this is like, when you have a drop down menu on like a corporate thing on the internet, and it lists all the countries in alphabetical order. And then the United States is way through. You're like, Most Americans on earth live in the United States. Why would you put us at the bottom? That's ridiculous. And when I look at it, they put authoritarian at the bottom. Like authoritarian is, hover over again. Look at that list. Look at this. I want to expose the totally inappropriate libertarian bias on this website, is that they put authoritarian at the bottom of this list. Now, as a statist, I am definitely an authoritarian. As it describes it here, authoritarians want the government to have a great deal of power over the economy and individual behavior. Hello, advocates, look around you. This is the status quo. This is the majority. Why don't you put us at the top? This is what people want, is authoritarianism. So anyway, they put libertarian at the front. Like, there aren't any libertarians out there. I mean, there's this noisy group of rebel idiots, but like they're not very, they barely exist. And then they've got progressive, conservative, moderate, and I respect that there are people who describe themselves as progressive or conservative or moderate, but they're all really statists too, and so I want to accept them in the authoritarian umbrella. And again, this one of the things that the advocates is doing, is they're getting there's this very simple reality. Either you're a libertarian or you're an authoritarian, and that means either you're a crazy idiot rebel or you're a team player, right? And what they're doing is taking this really simple truth and making it unnecessarily complicated and confusing people. But we're gonna make it easy to understand for all the other statists in the audience. So Jim, why don't you read us the questions and I'll do the answers here.
Okay, fair enough. Question number 1: government should not censor speech, press, media, or internet. Agree, maybe, or disagree?
Yeah. So, this is an obvious one, right? We know that if the government didn't tell us how to think and what to think, if the government didn't run our school system, if the government didn't control our media, if the government, wasn't able to keep dangerous ideas away from us, where would we be as a people? Where would we? That doesn't make any sense to have. To expect everybody to think for themselves. And I just want to point out, again, this test is so biased because government should not censor speech, press, media, or internet. Take the not out of there. And now you have a true statement that you can say, do you acknowledge this truth, as opposed to this sort of trick language? So on this one, definitely disagree.
Okay, click, mark. Okay, question number 2. Military service should be voluntary. There should be no draft.
Oh, that's ridiculous. And this is like, a lot of Americans are afraid today about terrorism, as they should be. A lot of Americans today are afraid of Europeans, as we should be. A lot of Americans today are afraid of Asians, as we should be. A lot of Americans today are afraid of Mexicans, as we should be. And Canada's cool, but we need to be afraid of the rest of these countries. And a lot of people are afraid because they think our government doesn't have the power to draft people. And that's absolutely not true. We have the Selective Service as something that you have to register for as a male when you turn 18 in this country. And that's a great thing. That's just if it wasn't for that, how would the government keep us safe from all these dangerous foreigners, all these dangerous threats in the world? And like in Iraq, again, I'm against the war because it wasn't big enough or decisive enough, or get us to world. It wasn't really capitalized on enough to get us to world government. But I'm definitely grateful that the government and the military had the power when they felt like it, or when they felt it necessary during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, to stop lost troops and keep them there longer than their contracts had what would suggest they were obligated to. So they were essentially, some people criticizing it called it a backdoor draft, and I was like, yeah, isn't that awesome? We have it's not technically a draft, but it is a kind of, when the government says no, we need troops, they get troops, and that's absolutely important for protecting America and keeping us safe. So definitely disagree on this. And again, voluntary. I got Jim, before you check this one and move on, I got to address the language in this. The military service should be voluntary. Well, when the government drafts you and tells you you have to serve or else, you voluntarily show up. You don't make them come to your door. You say, I have been called by government to go kill foreigners. Gosh darn it, I'm going to go kill foreigners for government. So it's all, even with the draft, it's totally voluntary. So, again, very dangerous, misleading, libertarian language. So, yeah, disagree on that one, Jim.
Got it, marked. Number 3, there should be no laws regarding sex between consenting adults.
Now, consent is a bit of a tricky issue here because, a lot of times society, and I think about this more in relationship to authority as a statist than between individuals, but it's really not about consent. It's about who's in charge. And when government says that, like right now under COVID, and in New York, in some of the health guidelines that have been put out around COVID, they specifically mentioned no, how do I say this delicately, anal to oral contact, because that can spread COVID unwittingly. And so, I think if the government doesn't have the power, and I should say, historically speaking, laws regarding sex between consenting adults concerned homosexuality, other deviant sexual things like interracial sex, which government has decided is no longer deviant, which is so it's okay now. But back when that was deviant behavior, and society wasn't ready for it, if government didn't have the power to intervene in sexual relationships, then, who knows what chaos we would have. And even today, we see with Corona, COVID-19, we see the need for government to maintain this power for, laws regarding sex between consenting adults, where, we see in a lot of places they're saying, yeah, you can have sex or sexual intercourse, but you have to be wearing a mask while you're doing it. So there's no, spreading of droplets during that intercourse. And if we didn't have government pointing this stuff out to us, sex would be a lot more dangerous, both for us as individuals and for society. So absolutely disagree on this one.
Okay, I'm picking up on a trend here. Number 4, repeal laws prohibiting adult possession and use of drugs.
Yeah, this is, again, really dangerously biased libertarian language that, look at this. Repeal laws prohibiting adult possession of use of drugs, and you get agree, maybe, or disagree. Where's the option for give us more laws about use of drugs? I find myself, looking at WebMD, and I wish I could just go to the FDA website. I go to my WebMD, I go to doctors. Sometimes I get conflicting opinions. Sometimes, I try to do as little research for myself as possible, and so I want someone to be able to tell me what's safe and what isn't. And the fact that I can't just call the FDA and be like, can you design a drug and diet program for me, please? That's that. Considering, well, I don't know, maybe we should be paying more in taxes so that we can get that. But I just, with this one, you see how deceptive libertarians are in framing the argument because they don't give us the rational statist choice of not just, because like right now we're kind of half butting it. We can't really go full throated in our endorsement of the system that we have today, because libertarians are pulling crap like this. And we really need to make sure that we defeat these dangerous ideas so that we can get government giving us more laws about possession and use of drugs. Obviously, that's what Americans really want. And Jim, I believe this is sort of an insufficient answer to the question, but I will say disagree.
Duly noted. Moving on. Number 5. Government should not target, detain, and deport undocumented workers.
I mean, they shouldn't have to, right? Like, I wish we had, we had better border security, so that we have a stronger sense of national identity. Nationalism, as a nationalism is really a confused term these days. Some people use this term nationalism and think that it's about differentiating identities, like your nation separate from another nation, but that's not true. What it's really about is coming together in a fascist society, communism, socialism, all of that together under a nation defined by a government. And really what that is, that fundamental value of nationalism really is the same as the fundamental value of globalism. And so, like, I want to promote nationalism as a means of getting to that kind of globalism. But even with globalism, even in an ideal statist global government, you're going to have to keep certain populations boxed in and controlled. I mean, just for economic planning purposes. So today, while I have this other ideal that at some point government will be so strong that targeting, detaining, and deporting undocumented workers is unnecessary, until we get to the point where every human being on earth is in their right box on the map, then I 100% support government targeting, detaining, and deporting again, this biased libertarian language, undocumented workers. It was just like civil disobedience. No, undocumented workers. These are freaking criminals. And as Donald Trump said, they're sending rapists and murderers. They're not sending their best people. So we need to make sure that all of the government has the power to target, detain, and deport these undocumented workers. So on this one, again, disagree is just not, again, logic of statism dictates disagree, but it really just is not even a strong enough response to this question, Jim. But let's now, Jim, you said earlier that you were noticing a pattern. There is a pattern here, because this is a quiz put together by libertarians. This is there's a pattern of libertarian bias here that really, I mean, I don't think this is, really going to be an act. Obviously, in terms of capturing, a consistent worldview based on statism as I have, it really is insufficient. So I don't think this political quiz is going to be, especially accurate, but because of its libertarian bias. But we're showing. I hope our listeners can appreciate that what we're showing here is that with solid statist logic and reason, the libertarian position can really be easily dismissed. So let's get on to the next section, Jim. Economic issues.
Economic issues. Taxpayers should not be responsible for student loan debt.
Yeah, I mean, this is what they're trying to say here, is that you don't have some collective responsibility to the herd. And this is one of the most dangerous things about libertarianism is that, they want you to be able to decide for yourself how you relate to the rest of society and how, what your obligation is. And you know what, most people just, even me, like, I don't know, when government says you need to pay us this much in taxes, I generally say, well, let me round up just to be safe. But, I can't figure these things out. We need a collective decision-making process, even to figure out what your individual commitment to society is, to the herd. And so what these insidious, they're not as clever as they think they are. These libertarians, what they're saying here is that when government creates a program where one sector of society or taxpayers in general take on this responsibility for a specific sector, they try to say you're not responsible, but you know what? This is nonsense. We're all in this together. And when our leaders say, hey, we need to pull together on this issue, taxpayers need to be responsible for student loan debt. If that's again, this isn't an ideal situation. And as per one of the planks of the Communist Manifesto, government should run education. And, we're almost there in America today. We're really close. Governments run the majority of schools from, birth to through age 18 through high school. And I mean, that's great. That is a huge accomplishment that humanity has gotten that far. But, when you get to higher education, there's still some, and again, like I said, we're most of the way there. In higher education, we have a lot of state systems. California, great example with the UCs. But we still have a lot of private universities. And as a result, we have this pay for college system. And that's just, like I said, we're not all, that's the last step for America to get to fully socialized education, to fully realize the communist plank that Marx laid out in his manifesto. So I think actually this is not just a good thing that taxpayers take on responsibility for current student loan debt, because government was kind of like pushing society in the right direction with government-backed student loans, making, and I think part of the plan sort of secretly here was to make college so expensive by subsidizing with government loans that eventually the people see the wisdom of trusting government with the entire education system, and you don't have to pay for any education whatsoever. It's all just, I mean, I don't want to say free, but it's taken care of by the government. So absolutely, taxpayers should be responsible for student loan debt. And you see there, if the government says you need to pay for this for somebody else, then do it. Like, why would you resist that? So again, you see this simple statist logic dictates that this statement is absolutely true if you take the not out of it. You take the not out of it. Again, taxpayers should not be responsible for student loan debt. That's what the website says. That's what the libertarians say. That's absolutely nuts. You take the not out of it, and now you have a true statement. So here, Jim, I got to go again, disagree.
Got it. Okay. Next question in the economy block. Government should not be responsible for providing health care.
Well, then who? I mean, you really want to leave something so important to the people? No, I mean, that's absurd. That's absurd. I mean, you just look at, where we're going and who has the best health care in America today? Government employees, right? Government employees, and of course, some corporate employees as well. But, those are the ones in America who have access to really good healthcare. So if we want good healthcare for everybody, the obvious answer is have the government employ everybody. And if we have to all take corporate jobs with corporations that are essentially extensions of government until then, so be it. But obviously the goal here is to have the best healthcare for everybody. So everybody should be a government employee. Everybody should be on a government healthcare plan. So again, they put this not, they give you the true statement here, very obvious. Government should be responsible for providing healthcare. And then these crazy libertarians put the word not in there, and you go, what are you trying to do here? So yeah, Jim, disagree.
Got it. Okay. Let people control their own retirement. Privatized Social Security.
All right, now this is a really tempting one, because a lot for a lot of statists are very tempted to take the libertarian position when they hear some numbers. And I'm not here to argue math. It's definitely true that if you took the money that you put into Social Security, and instead of letting government hold it as is the the status quo today, if you instead invested that in private investments, oh, look at what skyrocketed, you'd have so much more wealth. But and those numbers might be true. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician, but we're going to have to calculate for all the other external factors if you're going to take the position that that's better, as if that exists in a bubble, because it doesn't. Okay, look, you might be able to retire as a millionaire living off the dividends from your investments if you invested them yourself, but you're a lot safer with the government holding that money in a lockbox for Social Security. It is way safer that government holds that money for you. And there's this whole other thing that blows this private retirement concept out of the water, which is that when government gets to hold your money for you, remember, there's this collective effort. There are all these great thinkers in government, and that's why they can spend your money for you better than you can spend it for yourself. And when we come together as a nation and we have all this money with Social Security in this lockbox, that means government is able to go inside the lockbox, take that money out, and use it for a war when they need to protect you from evildoers abroad. They can use that for corporate bailouts when they need to bring corporations closer to the authority of government. They can go into that lockbox and use that money for retirement funds for members of Congress. So we know that government agents are going to be adequately compensated, or for pension and retirement and things like that. So this idea of privatizing Social Security, no, obviously that would defeat the point. So again, the libertarians use very deceitful language here. They say, let people control their own retirement. Well, the government is the people. And so in that sense, I agree with this rhetorically, but I see what they're trying to do here, because they're saying, let people as individuals control their own retirement. And that's, or let them come together in their own groups. And that's ridiculous, because as we've seen throughout human history, when people are grouped together under governments, they're able to get so much more done. So yes, people should control their own retirement through their governments, through Social Security, not through privatizing. So Jim, put me down for a disagreeing on this.
That's a firm disagree. Okay.
Very firm, yeah.
Place government welfare with private charity.
Yeah, this is, you're always going to have government welfare. Like the state, death and taxes, right? And we should embrace both of those. But taxes really and welfare go hand in hand. Governments are always going to use part of what what society gives them to give back for the good of society. And there's just the more centralized that decision-making process can be, the more efficient and effective it's going to be. And already, like, just in this question, so just to rephrase it, in reality, it's sort of like, should we have a two-tiered system? Should we have government welfare and private charity? No, I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. So replace government welfare with private charity in and of itself. That's just silly. I mean, it's not even realistic. And what they're really just advocating for here is pulling, minimizing government welfare and having this second tier of inefficient, ineffective, unregulated charity that they call, private charity. So no, disagree.
Got it. Okay. Cut taxes and government spending by 50% or more.
Well, this is a silly, stupid question. It's kind of arbitrary. 50% or more. Why not grow it by 50? I mean, if the goal is like right now, the average working American is only working for government about half the year. Now, this is when you add it all up, what you see in your taxes and, on your W-2 forms and things like that. The government is actually doing a lot more for you than just that. And I know a lot of a lot of Americans don't realize just how awesome government is. And I think this is an important part about what we do here with Adam Loves the Man, is that we take the time to appreciate how incredible government is. I mean, paying taxes and contributing to a civilized society is a noble thing that we choose to do as individuals to be better Americans, right? And so we think we're doing a good thing, we're being proactive, and when we sign up for deductions and we work and we make sure that the government is taking that money out of our paychecks every month. But I mean, it's sort of like finding out you had a secret Santa, getting a special product. So if you're the average working American, you might think, oh, I get 25, 30%, whatever it is, pulled out of my paycheck, and that's great. I'm happy that of what I contribute energetically and in resources and in energy and labor to society, that I'm able to take a big chunk of that and make sure that it's used more efficiently and more effectively through government. But here's the surprise: you're actually contributing a lot more than that. And government, I don't know if politicians are kind of like waiting for this big reveal to be like, no, look how awesome we are. You thought, well, we were only using about 25% of your income for the greater good, but it's actually over half. And so when you add up, you think about all the money that Americans give to government for, vehicle registration, for property taxes, for sales taxes, and for, all of the taxes in consumer products and built into that, and tolls and so on. The average working American is actually working for the government over half the year. I mean, how awesome is that? We're halfway there. We're halfway there, people. We can keep this going. This is awesome. So I hope that at some point politicians, are confident enough to come out and say this directly and say, let's get America on the same page. And so, why would you cut it from? I mean, if you cut taxes and government spending by 50% or more, as this question suggests, with this absurd proposal, that you would have, now the average American is only contributing 25%. That's why it's just a huge step back. But why not just take it to 0%? Why not just go to the Stone Ages? Why not it take us back to hunter-gatherer society where people don't have any government? I mean, that would just, that at least if libertarians were more consistent, that's what they would say here, right? But no. So my proposal is that we basically double government taxes and spending until effectively every American is directly a government employee. I'm not too picky whether on the way there we maintain this illusion of private businesses like we have today. And by the way, we have sort of a split system. Most corporations in America today are effectively agencies of government, where they get special tax privileges, deductions, and corporate advantages and things like that. And some businesses, like smaller corporations, obviously the bigger the better. And as we see more businesses conglomerate, they become more in line with government. And there's there's sort of this illusion right now that major corporations in America are truly private businesses. And I think that illusion is helping us transition away from the free market system to more of a fascist corporatist system. And if on the way there we maintain this illusion that we have now of these major economic functions being handled by private corporations, I'm okay with that. But yeah, obviously cut taxes and government spending by 50% or more, as the quiz asks. No, disagree.
Okay, and last but certainly not least, bonus question. Before we show your results, which of these do you think best reflects your views? They have 6 choices: libertarian, progressive, moderate, conservative, authoritarian, or unsure.
No, definitely authoritarian. That's easy. Statism, authoritarianism, corporatism, socialism, communism, yeah, fascism, whatever. I mean, I like statism today because it's not as, I mean, we put slavery here in the logo because we really want like a positive slavery, like an enslavement to authority, which is a way of describing people coming together in this collective harmony. Not a kind of individualist, disorganized concept of slavery. But people aren't, our audience with Adam Loves the Man is happy to see slavery used properly the way that we use it. Most people aren't ready to hear the words fascism or even authoritarian, and I think that's why the libertarians put this in here, is that they want you to think of authoritarian, as a bad word. Well, but it's a good authority. It's authority based on collective buy-in. It's an authority based on popularity through the popular vote, and that's what gives government its legitimate authority. So this is I wish we could come out and call it fascism like Mussolini did as corporatism, because that actually describes our current system. But if I got to call myself a statist for now, and if that makes me authoritarian on this quiz, then we'll check the authoritarian box. I'm okay with that.
Fair enough. So the results are authoritarian, as you self-appointed yourself. Anyways, you're all the way at the bottom of the diamond. Congratulations, you are 100% authoritarian.
Yep. And so I hope you guys appreciate. I hope our audience appreciates that what we have demonstrated, again, by taking this quiz, is that we really showed how just really basic statist logic and reasoning can defeat even this sort of tricky libertarian wording that's trying to subvert the truth. So, Jim, do we have any comments about this? Anybody want to weigh in on this? That anybody else in in the audience, excuse me, take the quiz with us while we were doing it?
Yeah, well, empty matter chimed in. He said each answer keeps giving me goosebumps of joy.
Yeah, and just again, part of what we love doing here with Adam Loves the Man is just showing how silly anybody who's not on the same page as government is, and this is a fun exercise in that.
Craig Darty suggests, I wish the government would make libertarians wear a scarlet L so I could stay away from their manipulations.
Craig, it's tempting to think that libertarians should be identified and the way that that Jews and witches and other subversives have been identified in the past. But I think libertarians are so pathetic and irrelevant that that's not going to be necessary. And right now, a lot of them are outing themselves anyway. if you see people while we have the corona mask mandates on, if you see people out there not wearing a mask, that's someone to avoid. That's a dangerous subversive right there. If you see someone in public not wearing a mask, and you need to report them to the authorities as soon as possible. And I'd like, it's tempting to think, oh, let's mark them all. But I think we're at the point where government is strong. We don't have to mark them. We can just beat them. We'll be okay. If we all pull together, and follow Karen's wonderful example, if we all really, if you see something, say something, right? If you see someone being libertarian, report them to the authorities. And I think that's going to be more effective than trying to pursue some kind of branding program, especially because libertarianism is so weak in and of itself as an ideology. Most people who you talk to as libertarians, when you talk to them and you give them and you preach the truth of statism to them, they convert very easily, and they don't go the other way. Once you learn the truth about government, you don't get to forget it. So if you see one of those libertarians, out there on the streets, I hope that you can be a good statist and reach out to them and help cure them of their libertarianism, because it's very easy to do. It's so much more effective. And if you can't, like with the mask example, if you go to someone with a mask or without a mask on, and you ask them to wear a mask, they might say, "Oh, whoops, I forgot. Don't worry, I'm a statist too." And they put the mask on, and then you're okay. But if they try to argue with you and they don't submit within a few exchanges, call the police, call security, call the authorities on them, and our government has its own kind of re-education program to bring people in line with the authorities one way or another. And I think we should trust them when we call them to be able to do that.
Good call. Yeah, Michelle Ness says we should let the government handle them. Government solves everything.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate that.
Yep. When we were talking about the elections before, 1054 chimed in. He said the only negative about an election is that there's a loser, and we miss out on their others' potentially great leadership. He wishes there was a better way.
Well, winners and losers. That raises some delicate questions for sure. Because, oh wow, I want to make sure that we have, the best leadership possible and collective decision making, and we still have to decide upon a single figurehead that we can all agree on, so that we can all say this is the best person in America and this is who we should follow without question. But to your point there, or to the commenter's point, there actually is a pretty good process of this in the United States, where you see in Republican and Democrat primaries, for example, that often the losers still win by getting cabinet positions or other important positions in government. So it's not really as simple as winners and losers. And while I understand your critique of the system there, I think we have a pretty good collective decision making process in place. Obviously, it could be a lot more efficient. Like we said on the show Tuesday, it would be better if, like, for example, only police and government employees were able. We're voting on government policy. Why should the rest of us have any say in it? It really should just be, police and soldiers and other government employees who get to vote. Since they're the ones making decisions for the rest of us anyway in terms of policy, they should get to decide who our political leadership is.
Yeah, that's in line with what 006 Darty was saying. Well, sort of. He's saying voting is so obsolete. Most of us aren't that knowledgeable. The politicians themselves should just choose who's the president. What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, well, we are entering a brave new world where I'm tempted to go into all the ways that technology can make different means of collective decision making available, but until then, we can just celebrate the statism that we have.
Absolutely. Okay. And our guest is backstage, CJ Abernathy, running for some position somewhere, is it?
All right. Yeah, let's go ahead and go to our guest. Our guest today on Adam Loves the Man is a true punk, a miscreant, a loser who just can't seem to give up libertarianism. His commitment to this message is absurd. It's just, it confronted with the truth of statism over and over again. He refuses to give up on this silly idea of freedom. So, this is why, when we evolved with from Adam versus the man to Adam Loves the Man, we had to fire CJ. And I hate to sort of, have to preface this interview with the note of, a personal disclaimer here. But I have a personal beef with CJ for not being a good follower, for not coming along with statism. Even again, like just given the truth of this, I've asked him to give up his race. He's running for District 23 Senate in the great state of South Dakota, and you know what? He has no respect for his home state. Even it's disgusting. He calls it Meth Dakota. And he's just because the he sent in this introduction that he wants me to read here on the air. And I don't think I'm going to do this because he's attacking Governor Kristi Noem because she said that everybody in South Dakota is on meth. And that's not true. It's just a rumor. And that CJ would be critical of the local dear leader in South Dakota is really just shameful. His own podcast, of course, is Internet Warlords. If you're still interested, I mean, I know some people, when you go to the opposite of the truth, and you examine that, it reaffirms your confidence in the truth sometimes if you're ever questioning or unsure. And so if you're unsure at all about statism and the message of Adam Loves the Man, and you need that libertarian punching bag, you need that libertarian foil. His podcast, Internet Warlords, is a great example of how wrong libertarians are about everything. He calls it the war for the internet. There's no war for the internet. The government already has complete control. I mean, just look at how and CJ, I hope you're censored next. I can only hope that you go through the same experience that I did, where censorship wakes you up to the virtue of authority and statism. So I do have to point out I do have some nice things to say about CJ. He's a Marine Corps combat veteran like myself. He volunteered to kill for politicians, which is awesome. And he's an Iraq and Afghanistan veteran, a Purple Heart recipient. And he's got a bachelor's degree in IT, information technology, with a focus on software engineering. And, CJ, I hope you can learn from this interview and see that, you've really gone astray from where you used to be in terms of service to the man. But, I also hope that our audience in the course of this interview gets to see just how ridiculous his libertarian ideals are. So, CJ, thank you for playing the punching bag today. Welcome to Adam Loves the Man.
Adam, thanks for having me. I always, being a guest on your show was always a goal of mine. We miss you back in reality. We miss you back in the freedom movement. We miss you, just overall. In fact, a lot of people don't think you're the real Adam Kokesh.
No, I don't know. Don't even try it, CJ. This is more libertarian. No, I'm not gonna. No. Don't make this about me. This interview is about you.
Okay, yeah, but
you're gonna try to suck me back in with your lies. No, we're gonna expose your lies. CJ, tell us, how did you become sucked into this dangerous, subversive movement of libertarianism in the first place? After being such a good, obedient statist Marine.
Well, Adam, I was sucked in by other libertarians who told me, hey, you own yourself. Hey, CJ, you hang out with a lot of libertarians. You might be a libertarian yourself. Hey, CJ, take this quiz real quick. Only Adam Kokesh can make a 1-minute quiz last 37 minutes. It's interesting time to be a libertarian in a statist world. Just as libertarians, we only seek a world of liberty, a world in which individuals are sovereign over their own lives and are not forced to sacrifice their values or beliefs to others. And
so you're talking about anarchy and chaos, obviously. That's
we have respect for individual rights, and it's an essential precondition for a free, prosperous world. That force and fraud must be banished.
I'm sorry, you broke up for a second there, CJ. Did you say that government is a necessary force
for
prosperity? Because I couldn't agree with you more.
No, definitely not. It's actually, to have true freedom, you can only have that without government force and fraud, and it must be banished from all human relationships, really, in order to be successful.
CJ, I mean, I know that. Look, stop. I know that's tempting. I know that's pretty language and all for some people. For those kinds of hippie delusions.
I'm just here to defend.
But hold on, hey, I can stop.
In any activity that is
stop. And this logic and reason. I'm going to ask you one question. I'm going to ask you one question, and you're going to no. I'm going to ask you one question, and then I'm going to let you go and reveal how stupid you are. Without government, who's going to build the roads?
Adam, private corporations. Domino's builds more roads than Adam Kokesh builds. But, at the end of the day, I'm just here, like I said, to seek the world and build it where individuals are free to follow their own dreams, Adam. That we don't have to be subservient to an omnipotent government. We in the members of the Libertarian Party challenge the cult of the omnipotent state and defend the rights of individuals. Adam, and again, to say that libertarianism is stupid is really the most ignorant form of political speak you can have. I mean, to be perfectly honest, Adam, I don't think anybody really likes statist Adam. And I think that statist Adam is a stupid form of Adam.
Hey,
and in fact,
no. CJ, you lost the argument. You call me ignorant, and then you go into personal attacks because you have no argument.
Me was a personal attack. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just going to tell statist Adam to eat a dick.
Yeah, because you have no argument, obviously. And I'll bet you have no policy either. I'll bet you don't even care. The only reason you would want your fellow South Dakotans to have this freedom is because you don't care about them and you don't want them to be unified under Governor Noem. So I don't know. Do you actually have any policies that you would pursue as a senator in South Dakota?
Well, see, the first thing a job of a senator would be, if they were truly about freedom, is to be a voice of the people, not a voice of government. So
yeah, again, avoiding the question.
No, not avoiding the question, Adam. I'm prefacing your question with
no policy.
Wow. New statist Adam is definitely a dick, though. I signed up for Adam versus the Man. I was producing the most censored.
Again, no policy. No policy. No policy.
And then somehow this is what was produced as a result of statism. And I mean, honestly, Adam, I'm here in the Freedom Wagon waiting for the real Adam Kokesh show. Oh, you're gonna get, man. Let me just here. You know what? Let me remove you from the screen since I still got that power. Hold on. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Statist Adam here is well, more or less on the lines is going to give me his platform to talk about personal liberty, self-ownership, our issues for libertarianism about expression and communication, privacy. I've got policies for all of these things, but the statist result is to do exactly what he's doing. You see in the first minute, here's a long intro about how I'm stupid, but when I tell him he's stupid, oh God, look at the triggered Adam go. But as far as personal relationships go, you heard him say that government should be able to regulate you in your bedroom. We have a whole platform on personal relationships that I could dive into. But again, you know, the statist mindset that I'm exposing here today is that they cut you off and do not even give you the chance to formulate a logical response. And they just use these hit piece media tactics, I guess, is the best way to describe what statist Adam is doing here today. But again, you know, as far as which policies would I want to talk about, we got parental rights, crime and justice. I could go through, you know, we just opposed the death penalty here in Meth, Dakota, because everyone's on meth because, you know, our omnipotent leader said that we need to spend money on meth campaigning advertising. You know, these are all things that I could talk about spending. I could talk about all the libertarian plank platforms that a guy could swallow down in a whole interview. But again, this is the loony libertarian that wants to have recreational nuclear warheads. If the government should be able to own it, you should too. And the government owns nuclear warheads. Therefore, I believe if we have a true Second Amendment, then the individual should be able to own recreational nuclear warheads. So thanks, comment Jim for doing that. But you know, anything else from the comments, I'm going to get a better conversation just taking over the platform than I am having a conversation with Statist Adam.
Yeah, nothing about policy for South Dakota. You libertarians are delusional. All you want to talk about is your fantasies, nothing practical.
Right, yes, because it's delusional to think that the government is perfect. So,
well, again, no practical policy. Let's hear it. You have practical policy for South Dakota?
Yeah, it's called Let People Be Free. It's called releasing them.
What would you do as senator? What's your priority? What would you actually do as senator? I would
sponsor a bill that makes all taxes voluntary.
All taxes are voluntary. You choose to pay taxes. That's crazy. What are you talking about?
If you choose to have zero, let's say I choose to pay zero in taxes to this shitty government that Adam keeps praising. You know, I can choose to say, no, my dollars are my fiat currency is going to stay with me, and I'm not going to give it back to this government. Taxes being voluntary would be the first.
No. You choose to live in South Dakota. You choose to live in America. You choose to enjoy those privileges. If you don't like it,
no, these are not privileges, Adam. These are rights.
You can get out. You can choose to leave and not pay those taxes. That means they're voluntary.
Yeah, no, that's not true at all. That's not true at all. But yeah, the statist mindset is to just say the lie and to just perpetuate it because you just say it 1,000 times. It's cool, don't worry.
All right, we have some more help from the audience here. Mr. Statist, the government is perfect. Prove me wrong.
Just say a statement and then be like, yeah.
We're working on it. But CJ, I want to point out to our audience, CJ is one of these dangerous libertarians slowing humanity down in the process of perfecting government. Craig Darty, this man is a danger to society. Absolutely. Why is he walking around freely? I wanted to visit South Dakota to see that great idol of our four great leaders, not if people like him are there. Too dangerous. Yeah, so again, this is why we have to make sure that libertarians don't win so that we can keep worshiping statist idols like Governor Noem wants us to with Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore is such an important piece of American history and American statism. You know, CJ, you should be grateful to live in the state of South Dakota where you have this incredible heritage of statist idolatry, where people are creating. I mean, it is one of the greatest monuments to statism in American history that you have Mount Rushmore there. How did you grow up so close to this glorification of our leadership and so fail to grasp the virtue of statism?
Well, see, first and foremost, Adam, I'm not a member of the herd, and I don't claim to be a member of the herd. In fact, I think the herd is filled with a bunch of stupid idiots that wouldn't know freedom from slavery if it was put right in front of them. I mean, just take a look at who's hosting this show. It has no clue about what freedom actually is anymore. This is when I signed up for this interview, it was when you were still libertarian Adam Kokesh. And again, I know the transformation for you through censorship has been a tough one where you are adopting these statist principles. But, when you really break down libertarianism fundamentally at its whole, Adam, the thing that comes down to is either you are for the state or against the state, right? That's you're saying I'm the bad guy because I think statism is bad, and you saying I'm the bad guy because libertarianism is bad. You're doing exactly what you're saying. I just want that to be identified for the record. But with that being said, the difference between me and statist Adam is that I believe that you are the one that should control your life, not government. He takes the opposite opinion. Government should control your life, not you. Now, this message gets censored in live time. This message gets, censored. That's why you changed. We used to have a show with 134 million impressions. We're struggling to get 15 live viewers right now. We used to be a platform that people would go to and believe that they were.
Cut his mic right there. No, Jim, cut his mic for a second. This is not CJ. You're a politician. You should know better than this. You should know better than to talk to a fellow veteran this way. You should know better than to talk to the host of the conversation like this. This is just uncalled for, inappropriate. And again, I would point out to the audience that the difference here is that having come to the truth of statism, I feel like I'm at peace again. I have re-wrapped myself in the warm, comforting security blanket of statism. And it brings me peace to know that there's this possibility that enough of us do this. We can get all of humanity on the same page under a global government with our eyes closed in comfort and in peace. And CJ just wants to rip that blanket off. And there's going to be conflict and chaos. And you see, even in his presentation today, that's what he is manifesting. CJ, how do you respond to that?
Is my mic on?
Sure. We'll let you speak.
So again, keeping in mind that censorship in lifetime of libertarians is no stranger to this game, but as far as I'm just giving you your own pill, Adam. That's all. You're just having a harsh reaction to what you used to do to people, where you would rip apart statism, you would rip apart the omnipotent government, and you would expose the crimes the government commits against people. And to be perfectly honest, I've been watching your show the last few days, and like I said, it's to me, this is where again I think that there's a disconnect between freedom Adam and slavery Adam. Adam loves the man, Adam versus the man. And Adam versus the man was at least a show that challenged people. And I know you're gonna say, nothing here of substance, nothing here of value. But what really blows my mind is this question I have for you. Again, I know it's weird for a guest to try to interview the host, but since your newfound love of statism and sticking true to your character and blaming all the deaths and wars at the hands of government like you've done for 12 years over on YouTube, do you, as a part of the herd, accept your portion of death, destruction, mayhem caused at the hands of the government? Do you believe that you play a role, and if you do, accept that responsibility?
I'll ask the questions around here. Earlier in this interview, you admitted to using meth. How much meth do you smoke, and do you still beat your wife?
I've actually never tried meth. I prefer cannabis. You
So
know,
you're a liar. You said everybody in South Dakota is on meth except you. That's
Meth Governor Christy Noam actually said that everybody's on meth here, not me. She's the one that's spending the money to tell all the rest of the world we're on meth, not just 1 year, but 2 years in a row. So she actually used a proclamation to declare this, which I think you're gonna appreciate because it's just a direct speak from leader to servant and slave of government.
so,
But
CJ, who are you running against in this race?
I'm running against a guy by the name of Brian Breitling, and believe it or not, the guy only has 100 likes or so on Facebook. I mean, I got more likes than him, but I think that
he's humble.
no, he's a lawyer. He's going to do real well to the appointed principle of the statist mindset.
Lawyers make the best politicians. They make the best political leaders.
Yeah. No,
you have no legal experience, do you?
No legal experience. I'm not a lawyer. No. Adam.
Oh, and yet you're going to write the laws for the people of South Dakota. No, I would rather trust a lawyer with this responsibility. I mean, again, libertarian delusions. They think that people who have never been lawyers can write laws or repeal laws or even apply the mechanisms of government effectively. Not realistic. I hope you would all see that CJ does have a noble opponent worthy of your support.
Yeah, no, Brian is a statist appointee who is only there because he was told to be. And, at the end of the day, they have to control one state racketeering game they've got going on here in South Dakota by
so CJ, hold on. Before you go any further, I got to point out there's a very important lesson to be learned from this.
Yes.
Is that if you do what you're told, you can gain political power, and you should really learn from the example of your opponent here.
Right. I could sell out to the state like yourself and Mr. Breitling. I could easily do that, but there's a thing called principles that I think that you've lost along the way, and a participation in a party that you yourself really helped build. In fact, I would credit you as being one of the 4 libertarians that I would seek political advice from, and so like I said
Well, then I would tell you to join one of the serious parties. Drop the Libertarian Party entirely.
I'm going to avoid this version of Adam Kokesh. This is
you can't run from the truth, CJ. You can't run from the glorious truth of government and statism. It's all around you, whether you like it or not.
And I'm just going to project this out here. Be careful what you wish for, Adam. It just may break you.
I am on the winning team here, CJ. We are winning. Government is winning. I mean, you want to win? You're like Donald Trump. Win with government.
At the end of the day, this is the mindset that is responsible for the loved ones that you have being destroyed and pillaged, raped, and murdered by the government. This is the mindset, ladies and gentlemen, that we as libertarians are trying to stop, because at the end of the day, if you are a capitis demimutia maxima, which means you have no legal rights, you are a slave to government. If you are underneath the oppressive thumb of the slavery through your vote, which is an uninformed consent to your own slavery. And so it's good branding. Don't get me wrong. I love your branding. You're one of the best branders in the world. But really, I got to emphasize that lately, Adam, and maybe you can help me with this in your statist view. I've been thinking that people like you are retarded. And I've been saying the word retarded. I've been trying to find a better word that doesn't trigger you all or get somebody offended.
Yeah, that's not correct. You can't
I think it's a mental.
Hey, we're on YouTube, CJ. Show some respect for the community guidelines.
Jim will check.
You're going to have to bleep that.
Right. So Jim will check that box, YouTube. The adult is talking to the statist. At the end of the day, Adam, when it comes down to it, you've got 2 choices. You can choose to be ignorant, keep your head in the sand, and worship the omnipotent state and be that obedient bitch slave. I don't have to check that box anymore. So I'm just giving Jim a little bit of what I used to have to go through daily, being the host of what was
libertarian. This is proof that libertarians have low impulse control.
Until this guy jacked it up. I mean, this is ridiculous, Adam. You were one of the best voices in the libertarian movement. You were, honestly, running for president, abolishing the federal government. Your message of freedom.
CJ, don't try to change the subject. We're talking about how pathetic your impulse control is here, because you cannot adhere to basic standards of decency of language as the authorities have laid out. Those words have no place in an adult conversation.
If you want to go back to civil discourse, you need to understand that your vote equals a violence against me. And so I take that as you've already violated the NAP. Therefore, I should be able to use offensive violence against you. That's my opinion. And right now in the Freedom in the Wagon, I'd like to walk over to the new slavery factory and really just I honestly, I'm going to say how other people feel. I want to knock your teeth out.
Yeah. So libertarians are violent too.
No. Only when it's principled and in defense. And I say that sure. This is the mindset that I'm trying to speak out against. That I want to punch you in the mouth, but my principles tell me otherwise. So using the word retard, like I said, I struggle with this, and I guess I'm maybe trying to speak to the former Adam Kokesh, the man you used to be, to the shell you are now. Like, what happened, Adam? Like, tell me what happened in Gardenia that caused you to switch to be this conformist, statist, authoritarian. I mean,
well, CJ, come on, you know the story. If you go back, you watch the opener on Monday's show, you'll see that the censors. No. This is really important. Because, hey, I'm in charge here. I'm controlling the conversation. Now stop. Cut his mic. This is why again, I want people to learn from my experience, because I was censored, and the authorities prevented me from getting out the libertarian message. I was able to really look deep and examine the libertarian message and see how wrong it is. And now that I'm a statist, and I've seen the light and the truth and the way of government, I am able to get this message out, and I'm able to reach far more people with a positive message of unity and obedience to authority, and that's what's actually going to move humanity forward, and that's the truth. So, CJ, I wouldn't have had you on here if I couldn't point out to people that you're dangerously drugged out and delusional. And you're one of those loony libertarians, as our commenters so correctly pointed out. But given that I'm able to put your message in an appropriate context here, that allows me to show the world how absurd libertarianism is, and therefore get it on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, where your people won't even allow you to share your message because you shouldn't be allowed to share it. We're going to present it like this, and because we're able to present it like this, I'm going to give you. I'll give you the last word.
I'm okay. If you don't mind, I'm going to use your platform. My fellow libertarians, the only legitimate use of force is in self-defense of individual rights, life, liberty, and justly acquired property against aggression. And what the statist mindset is doing is justifying the aggression in the streets that you're seeing through riots, through hostile clashes with the omnipotent government. Because there are people out there, yes, they may be libertarian-minded, they may be individual freedom thinking people, which, again, I understand Adam is directly opposed to, but this is why we have a Second Amendment, to keep and bear arms, to oppose the persecution that Adam and other statists are trying to exercise against us as we exercise our right to self-defense. So I would just say, if you see a statist, punch him in the teeth. That's my message for the end of the day. If you're going to call me a violent libertarian, I'm going to just say punch a statist in the mouth. Support a libertarian. These are the people in the mindset, and I hope this show is a great testament to libertarians of just how stupid statists can be and how dangerous their message actually is. And, I'm actually glad that I got out while I did, and I'm actually able to use this platform here to expose state of myself. You can check me out on Internet Warlords. I'll be debuting my new show November 6th. It's It's a Friday night, 10 o'clock. And we'll make fun of Status like Adam. You know, we'll use Joe Rogan's tactic of stealing his audience to grow my own show. I think there's a few things we can learn from what Adam's doing here, but ultimately, let's let Statist Adam go the way of Bill Weld, go the way of a Gary Johnson, or other libertarians that hopped off the train. I'm sure he'd commend these people today, but honestly, Adam, I would say it was a pleasure, but honestly, you can get fucked, and that's pretty much all I got to say. Have a good one or don't. Choice is always yours.
All right, best of luck in your glorious loss there in that race. And by the way, I just want to point out that I totally lied to CJ. I'm taking the last word here because and there are a couple of important things as takeaways here. First of all, CJ, thank you for coming on and exposing the absurdity of libertarianism and giving us the opportunity to show the world how silly and delusional your worldview is. But also, I really want to point out that what I just did as the host, I want to point out how I lied for everybody's good. And sometimes that kind of dishonesty is necessary, appropriate, and good for humanity. And, because I was listening to CJ there and, I was getting ready to throw up. I couldn't take that much, freedom from that deranged libertarian perspective. And so really, I lied to him to get him to shut up. And that's okay. That kind of, when you're the host, no matter what else is going on, it's okay to lie to people to control the conversation for the greater good. And that's why I want to say, and there's a bigger point to be made here, because I want to express my support for YouTube. And when they say that like they're censoring videos because of impersonation or deceptive practices, or some YouTube creators have gotten emails. Some libertarians even have had their old channels deleted. And YouTube can't just come out and say, "Hey, we're deleting you because you're libertarian," because that would ruin the point, right? Like I couldn't have told CJ, say one more thing, and then I'm going to tell you how wrong you are, and then this interview's over. He wouldn't have shut up. We wouldn't have, he'd still be on here trying to shout over me like a deranged libertarian. So, I had to lie to him for the greater good. And that's why it's okay for YouTube to lie to you, to lie to the public, to lie to content creators who they don't like because they're not in line with the statist message, or they're not in line with the corporate message, or they're not suitable for advertising, or whatever the case may be, in order to protect us. And just as I protected you today from this dangerous idea of libertarianism with a lie, I want to say that I totally support YouTube lying to people in order to protect the world from libertarianism. So that being said, let's check in with the audience for a few minutes. We've got about 30 minutes in the show today. I do have some important headlines to cover. We are going to get to and some stuff about the World Health Organization that's very important. So let's go back to Comment Jim, and thank you for bringing our statist audience in with those comments to help with that interview. How you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, they were pretty triggered, a few of them. Sometimes, like I'm a statist, he said handicapped is what he uses for the word instead of the R word that CJ used.
Yeah, it's important to not just be correct as statists, but to be politically correct in our expression of it as well.
Matter hopes no children were watching that because he was afraid it would corrupt the youth.
Yeah, and for that I'm actually, I'm a little bit, I guess that's a silver lining in our guest using some inappropriate words on the air. And that now when we produce this video, we're going to have to check a box that says that there is inappropriate language, and therefore maybe some children who aren't able to see the appropriate framing of CJ's message there won't be able to see it, and that's definitely a good thing.
Cool. Okay. Regular people were never meant to serve our fine government unless it's to murder folks halfway across the world for my oils.
Yeah, so like a lot of libertarians, want to come out and say we're not politicians, we're just regular people. Yeah, and that's why you suck. That's why you shouldn't be elected to office ever. Like politicians are like, we recognize that they're better people. Duh. Like, so no, when you hear a politician come out and say, I'm a regular person, I'm just like you go, well, that's why I don't respect you, because I don't respect myself. I don't trust myself to make decisions. I want someone who's better than me to make decisions for me. And yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
There's somebody here, Mercedes Lynn. My libertarian philosophy is not to argue with people John Brown would have shot. Save energy and lives that way, since we want to save so many lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't. Well, saving lives isn't the goal of statism. Like, I mean, let's be honest here. The goal of statism is the unification of humanity under a central planning global government. If we got to kill people, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. And if governments make war or have genocides, it's unfortunate, and we can mourn in a sense that loss of life. But we can have confidence in government in knowing that it was for the greater good.
Yeah. Here's a good question from Ned Kelly. The problem is that some people will comply with regulations, but don't truly love the nation. Is there some way we can verify what's actually in their hearts?
Well, this is why, you can use coercion against people out of love, because if you force people to do something, their ideology will follow. If you force people to comply with the state, they will justify that eventually with love for the state. So it's sort of like one of the things we learn from the phenomena of Stockholm syndrome is that just like we can, they say love our captors. Of course, government's not captors. That part of the analogy doesn't really apply at all. But that if you force yourself on someone long enough, they will love you eventually. And I think that's one of the key ways that statism works when it's done right.
Absolutely. Low key, I assume, was referring to the CJ interview. He says you should remove this from YouTube yourself. Just be obedient. I don't know if that's necessary, but the real irony about that is we're actually broadcasting on CJ's YouTube. So I hope people are having fun wrapping that around their noodle.
All right. Well, we are gonna bleep the inappropriate language and make sure that video gets up as a testimony to just how silly libertarianism is.
CJ's forcing his way into our comments here, saying, if you justify violence at the hand of government against the people, I justify violence against the government by the people. Self-ownership and self-defense are the key to freedom from government.
Yeah. No, get that off the screen.
Got it.
Not worthy of. I see. You can't. Eventually, we will be able to shut up all the libertarians.
She says we must chip everyone for the greater good to make sure they obey. What do you think about the chip scenario?
Well, I'm really excited about some of the ways that technology is being used by government to help unify humanity. But I don't think we need. I think we can. And if we, I think the chip is part of that process. But if we didn't have it, we could still do this. I think we can get people unified without it. So I don't think it's possible to say, are we going to get unified before we get the chip, or is the chip going to be the last step of statism unifying humanity? It's hard to say.
Good question. Yeah, that's all we got. Are we doing, you got some news to cover today?
I don't know. I'm having so much fun just, talking about statism in general today, and, putting our guest in his place that, I don't know, man. I guess, yeah, let's do some headlines. Let's do a couple headlines quickly here. Oh, wait, we have some producers club stuff. Okay, no, that's I don't think coming into the show. All right, our first headline today comes from AlJazeera.com. WHO, World Health Organization, urges world don't give up as COVID-19 pandemic resurges. And this is, I'm so grateful that we have the World Health Organization not just as scientific leaders telling us which science is correct and which isn't, and making sure that the bad science gets censored, but that we have this, spiritual and emotional leadership with the World Health Organization urging the world don't give up. I mean, this is, and this is really important. Again, I want to say that as I see this coronavirus go throughout the world, that it's really, bringing governments and it's bringing governments together, and it's bringing people together like never before. People are unified like never before, working together like never before. And this is really incredible. The subtitle of this story, WHO chief acknowledges fatigue, but says distancing, masks vital to avoid return to strict lockdowns. The World Health Organization is urging people around the world not to give up in the fight against the coronavirus as cases surge, once again stressing the need for mask wearing, physical distancing, and other measures to avoid the kind of full-scale lockdowns that were imposed earlier this year. And, one of the things, like, I consider what we're going through globally with Corona right now is a really important expansion of government powers. And, I'm still hoping that we get this thing fully beat with a vaccine. But what's important as the takeaway from this experience for humanity is that we see that when we give government more power, they can use it for the common good, and everybody's lives are better, or at least those of us who survive. All of our lives are better as a result of this use of power. And so what I'm really looking forward to post-corona is that now that government has this expanded power, they're going to be able to use it for really just a lot of other exciting things. And I want to say this is one of the places the United States is doing a great job here. So our next article that goes with this one about Corona for our Corona update today is from the Daily Mail, dailymail.co.uk. The headline, White House COVID testing expert Brett Giroir warns of draconian measures ahead if U.S. doesn't get new cases under control, but says a vaccine could be achieved this month and will end the pandemic. And they're coming out and saying draconian. I don't know, they both sound pretty cool. Draconian measures. Draconian. I see what I did there. Yeah. So these draconian measures. I mean, can you imagine, like, if this happened, I don't know, maybe a few decades ago, the American people wouldn't be ready for this kind of incredible use of government, this kind of just beautiful statism. So if Brett Giroir, to the bullet points for the story, Brett Giroir appeared on Wednesday morning to say the next few months will be critical to the country's recovery. And I know some people, when they hear this, they think, oh, well, government is just kind of scaring us into obedience. And if that's the case, that means that this is one of those situations where government has decided it's okay to lie to get to change people's behavior, to get everybody on the same page for their own good. And so even if you see through that lie, in fact, if you see through that lie, it's especially important that you obey. It's especially important that you spread that lie. So yes, let me just repeat, in case it's not a lie, that the next few months will be critical to the country's recovery. He said that if people didn't start socially distancing, there could be more draconian measures ahead. Giroir said while cases were going up, the country is equipped now to handle it. And see, again, and not just look at all the positive growth of government under this Corona experience, where it's now equipped better than ever. And I want to say that the language here used by the Daily Mail is a great example of a pro-government media outlet sneaking in even more pro-government language than the headline would suggest. I know you're gonna say this is crazy. Like, Adam, this headline is so pro-government. How could it be any more pro-government? Well, if you look again, if you read between the lines and you look at the language they're using, he said this bullet point says the country is equipped now to handle it. And what he's really talking about is the government. And what the Daily Mail authors are doing here is very, very subtly promoting this idea that a country and a government are one and the same. And that's kind of true today, but as a statist, I want to see more of that. And so thank you to Jennifer Smith, who wrote this for the Daily Mail, for using, I mean, maybe, or your editors, I don't know who's really responsible for this, but I want to say thank you for using this kind of language that really helps people see that governments and countries are one and the same. And to the extent that we're not quite there yet, at least they should be. He said there would be a vaccine, possibly even this month. The U.S. now has 8,781,354 cases, and there have been 226,752 deaths. Now, you know, I want to point out something very important about statistics that a lot of people tend to forget, because there was a very important government study of government statistics, and they wanted to see, you know, how often government was wrong, because they wanted to see that you know, how they wanted the people to have more faith in government, as we should. And so the government did a review of itself, and it said we're never wrong. Now you look at statistics like this, right? And the statistic, I want to repeat this: 8,781,354. And I think it's amazing that our government can be so precise. So in order for government, I mean, government is so truthful and accurate and precise. Instead of saying how often are we right versus how often are we wrong, because that's effectively, you know, right, government is effectively right 100% of the time. The government did another study to find out, with these kinds of statistics, how often are they within 1% accuracy. And I'm referencing I want to make sure you guys get this number and remember this. It's 86.75309% of the time government puts out statistics like this, they are accurate to within 1%. And that kind of accuracy and precision can only come from government. All right, we have a few political headlines as well here. First, from Reuters. So what if Biden is up in the polls? Weren't they wrong last time? From New York, whenever President Donald Trump is confronted with polls he does not like, especially the torrent of national data showing him trailing Democratic challenger Joe Biden in public support, the president's response is usually the same: fake news. If the polls were always right, his thinking goes, Hillary Clinton should be running for re-election, not him. The former Democratic presidential candidate consistently led Trump in state and national polls in 2016 before he won the White House, just like Biden does now. Again, I see a story like this, and I don't really like the state of journalism in America today. I think there are way too many subversive journalists who try to pick apart politicians. There are way too many so-called journalists who will present a conflict like this among our leadership. There are way too many journalists who are willing to question authority. I mean, of the mainstream media, of like Reuters and CNN and ABC, NBC, of the mainstream, there might be as many as like 5% who aren't good government obedient journalists who are actually questioning the authorities. And that's way too much. When I see stories like this, you know, I pray that the sooner we really get journalism under control, we get rid of that, that last those infiltrators who don't understand that the purpose of the mainstream media is to serve government's message of getting everybody on the same page. The sooner we get them all, and again, this is why I want to promote government takeover of the media. That would just make things so much more simpler. And government takeover of the elections again. And I know this is a little pie in the sky, but this is America. I mean, look at how much we've achieved. We have the biggest military in the world, like by far. It's not even close. I mean, Team America. F yeah. I mean, what we really should be getting to with a full government takeover of the elections is that really only police and military personnel and other government employees vote, and nobody else. I mean, they're the ones running government. They should be the ones who have a say. I mean, why should I have a say? I guess as a veteran, I'm a former government employee, but I don't know what's going on now. I don't have any perspective or relevant wisdom to bring to the conversation. No way. I mean, there are people who shouldn't be allowed to vote at all today, but compared to, an active duty soldier or a cop or an elected politician, my vote really shouldn't count. And then you wouldn't have headlines like this next one from prawn.com. As election day nears, Trump ponders the prospect of defeat. And this is really sad. I would like to see every president serve 2 terms, or maybe for life. If government is able to elect its own president, then they're going to be able to find someone worthy of serving for the rest of their life. And I think Trump qualifies as that. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten to that point yet. So the story goes, trailing in the polls and with little time left to change the trajectory or closing themes of the presidential race, President Donald Trump has spent the final days of the campaign complaining that the coronavirus crisis is getting too much coverage and openly musing about losing. And the unification that humanity is working towards as government grows, of getting everybody on the same page, we're looking forward to a much more efficient system where we don't even have to waste time on elections at all. So the next story from Reuters is just more proof of this point of how not just inefficient, but even dangerous American elections are and why they shouldn't be trusted with we the people. This is from news.trust.org. Americans plan widespread protests if Trump interferes with election. I mean, it's like you go to a house party and you say, well, if the host is mixing your drinks for you, you're going to burn the house down. And it's like, wait, Trump is the president. He's in charge. He's hosting this election. He can't interfere. It's like saying, well, calling it interference is completely inappropriate. Again, it's his election. He's the president. He's running it. And but that's my extra little insight here. The main headline is bad enough. Americans plan widespread protests if Trump interferes with the election. Dozens of activist groups who claim to represent millions of Americans from both political parties plan to hit the streets next week if President Donald Trump appears to be interfering with vote counting or manipulating poll results after Election Day. I do want to say this polarization, it's saying both parties. And like we told you yesterday on Rodeo Drive, not Rodeo, no, we're not using that foreign pronunciation. It is Rodeo Drive. You say it like Americans. And they're playing, the police there have to shut down Rodeo Drive ahead of the elections to prevent this. Most Americans who are on the fringes of the left, right, and maybe libertarians, other fringe lunatics out there, don't realize that both parties are working together very effectively and efficiently to grow government together. That all you're choosing And I'm so grateful that our choices are limited this way. If you understand that both parties, please take comfort in this. If you're a hardcore Trump supporter or you're a hardcore Biden supporter, it doesn't matter, because the most important things about American government are going to stay the same regardless. So, if you're supporting Trump or Biden, you're probably supporting all of the important things that they have in common, right? They both support military interventionism, a strong military, having the biggest in the world. That's great, right? You feel a lot safer with a big military around. They both support Social Security and growing the current welfare state, if not at least maintaining it, right? So, again, welfare is not going anywhere. The welfare state is not going anywhere except up and up and up with Trump or Biden. They both support the police state. So having a strong police force out there enforcing corona mandates. They go back and forth arguing over which one is more pro-police. Well, guess what? They're both very pro-police. They're both pro-surveillance state. So I know, as we sign off at the end of the show, don't forget to report your suspicious neighbor or your suspicious neighbors to the authorities. With the surveillance state, we have help with that, right? We don't have to have everybody, if you see something, say something if the government sees everything. So it takes a huge burden off of the people to go out and enjoy life under government without having to worry about what your neighbors might be doing. You don't have to spy on your neighbors if the government is doing it for you, right? They both support the central bank, and really that is the underpinning of our entire economy. If it wasn't for the Federal Reserve System, the government would have to take more money from people in a way that would cause disruptions. But when they need money in a hurry, they're able to just borrow it by the trillions from the Federal Reserve, and that's really important. But when it comes down to it, they're both fascist, right, in Mussolini's definition. And I know that if you're supporting Trump or Biden like me, and again, I still haven't decided yet because they're both so great, such powerful alpha male leaders, they both support the general progress of fascism in the United States by Mussolini's definition of the merging of the corporation and the state. So, look, America, stop fighting. This whole left and right thing is silly. Know that your choices have been limited for your own good. The only choice that we're making this November is essentially between red-flavored fascism and blue-flavored fascism. And it comes down to kind of a personality conflict or personality, popularity contest between Trump or Biden. So let's put it in that context and remember that your vote is not as significant as some of these extremists want you to think, because government has already pre-handled most of the decision-making process here for us. So, I don't even want to get into this because this is just giving platform to a certain amount of disgusting subversiveness. The Protect the Results Coalition of over 130 groups from Planned Parenthood to Republicans for the Rule of Law has about 400 events. And a lot of this is probably, terrorist AstroTurf. Participants are prepping to demonstrate as early as the afternoon on Wednesday, November 4, the day after Election Day, and await an SMS message. So, to what I said about, the mainstream media, there are some subversives, but I want to generally thank the mainstream media for the way that they host the debates and interviews, and of course the Commission on Presidential Debates, for doing all of this thinking on behalf of the American people for us, and really making it clear that these that the two parties, we have a two-party system. It's working because the two parties are working together to pull us towards bigger government. And I think that right now that this extremism, this growth of people on the fringe, this polarization, really is holding us back from unifying as a country and really as a species. You're holding back human progress. So, one other story that I have to include in this little election update block, which is so important, is from AZ Central, Arizona Central. Organizations project anti-Trump messages onto Camelback Mountain. And, there's just no place for this in America. We really need to respect all of our leadership. This kind of negative campaigning, really damages people's faith in the system, damages people's faith in the election, damages people's faith in the authorities and our entire process. And so we see this Trump failed us lit up on Camelback Mountain here in my home state of Arizona, and I think that's totally uncalled for. If you should say, Trump didn't succeed enough, and Biden will grow government faster. Let's keep this on, a positive message that really is in line with the spirit of statism. So I'll just end my election update with this, because I do have to put one. I have this sort of general, let's be positive towards politicians. Let's be more loving and supportive, and not question their motives. Let's not question their histories, their backgrounds, their family relationships. Let's not question their business ties or things like that. But there are some exceptions, and I'll make an exception for. I'll point out at least as is starting to look. I don't know, the biggest of the punks, Jo Jorgensen, the Libertarian nominee for president. She's not a public servant like other politicians, and she's really more of just a traitor. And so for libertarians, we should talk as much trash about them as we possibly can and discredit them with personal attacks, but never, ever do that for our two leading fascist parties who are really essential for growing government and moving America forward, the Democrats and the Republicans. And so one way or another, I am confident that Trump or Biden will win next week, and that'll be good for everybody. All right, let's see. We have just a few minutes left in the show today. Let's see if we can skim through some headlines and maybe check in with our comments. Although we have a lot here. I guess one more from USAtoday.com. Philadelphia police discover van loaded with explosives amid unrest over fatal shooting of black man. And I think you can blame this on libertarians, 100%. If it wasn't for libertarians, is spreading this rebellious attitude and questioning authority, then we wouldn't have this kind of dangerous subterfuge. And on the off chance that this is the work of some government infiltrators or setup, well, in that case, let's just be grateful that we have such a strong covert government, sort of shadow government that's looking out for us. Because if this was the work of government infiltrators, then it was clearly not just to set up protesters or rebels or other malcontents. This was definitely for the greater good. All right, let's see what else. Oh, U.S. debt clock. Some people think that the national debt is a bad thing, and again, this is why an unabashed statist perspective is so important to seeing the truth. Producer CJ, there you go. You got the U.S. debt clock, but I want you to zoom in on U.S. national debt. There recently crossed $27 trillion. Now, I know that number is really big and abstract, but I do want you to try to wrap your head around this for a second. Because what this represents is something really beautiful and positive. This is how much government is able to connect with you. This is sort of a measure of government's love for you as an individual. They were able to borrow this money in your name and help you do your part to serve the collective. and some people who would challenge and say, Adam, that's ridiculous. This is money that's going to banks for interest on the loans, and this is money that's going to corporate subsidies. And to a certain extent, yes, when this money that is being taken from you, I just want you to remember, when money is being taken from you as a taxpayer, when you give your money, I should say, voluntarily to your government, and that government gives some of it to the banks, they're paying for a service that keeps the money flowing for your own good. When they take that tax money and they give it to corporations and bailouts and subsidies and things like that, they might as well be spending it on other government agencies, because we have a kind of corporatocracy where those corporations serve as extensions of government. And so even that spending is for your own good too. So it is a measurement of the government's love for you as an individual, that the debt per citizen, some people would say debt per taxpayer, but we all pay taxes one way or another. The debt per citizen in the national debt is $82,244. So a big milestone to celebrate that we recently crossed that $27 trillion number. And it's important for you to wrap your head around exactly what that means so that you can appreciate just how much government loves you. All right, we are at time, so let's wrap this up. I'm going to do just a quick skim of the headlines, and I don't think there's anything anything you need to worry about today. The government has everything under control. Things we're handling the corona epidemic. People are coming together, and I don't think that we have anything to be afraid of right now or to be concerned with. So let's go to the comments and then sign off, shall we? Comment, Jim. What do you got for us today?
Let's see. There was one question I was curious about. Has Adam Loves the Man gotten any strikes on YouTube yet? I don't think they have.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, it's really awesome to see how much YouTube promotes the message of statism, and I'm really grateful for the fact that Google bought YouTube, and then it got further consolidated, and it's in the corporate control under Alphabet. And now, instead of YouTube being like this wild west on the internet where people are dying left and right from bad ideas, YouTube is doing a really good job of promoting statism, authoritarianism, fascism, socialism, communism, and making sure that anybody who's anti-authority or libertarian at all basically has no voice on this platform.
Understood. Yeah. 1054 says the UK are light years ahead of us in surveillance technology. So sad and unnerving.
Well, no, I mean, this is just, I know a lot of people who support government, who vote Republican and Democrat, subconsciously have the fantasy of that full, eyes closed, statist, government security blanket. But it takes time to develop that. Humanity is marching towards that, and it's kind of weird when you've got a pretty nice blanket over here in America. I mean, it's a pretty warm, heavy blanket. Government's pretty awesome in the United States, and you look over at the UK and you hear about, well, they're doing universal testing over there. They're actually going to have police go into people's homes and break up their Christmas gatherings, whereas in the United States, all we have is California with Governor Newsom doing that for Thanksgiving. You go, oh, their blanket is warmer than ours. Don't worry. In this blanket metaphor, the blankets get to merge and grow together and learn from each other until humanity is brought under one global warm security blanket that makes everybody feel comfortable closing their eyes, going to sleep, feeling perfectly safe.
1054 also would like to formally apologize for bringing the term Karenovirus to the table. It was in a moment of draconian anger, and he is very sorry.
Oh, I'm kind of confused by that because as a statist, I think that we have this term now, Karen, for someone who's willing to get the authorities involved with everything possible, that we can celebrate this. I mean, if it wasn't for the Karens of the world, we would be really suffering from not having a strong enough surveillance state that would, if we had drones everywhere, security cameras everywhere, we wouldn't need Karens. And eventually we'll get to that point. But for now, the fact that there are Karens out there, and for those of you who don't know, Karen is a term for someone who's, confident in themselves, who knows that the authorities are better than the rest of us, who wants to help the authorities make decisions for the rest of us, and as the ultimate manifestation of, if you see something, say something, because if they see you doing something that it makes it in any way whatsoever for the authorities to get involved, they will call the authorities. And again, right now it's one of the silver linings that we have to look at with this coronavirus. Again, sometimes I like to call it the Karenavirus, because it's really encouraging people to call the authorities and report each other to the authorities. And that's, again, just like a beautiful side effect of the COVID-19 experience. So, I mean, obviously giving government more power, but until we get to a fully statist world, we need Karens. We need you to be a Karen. We need you to report your suspicious neighbors to the authorities. So I think this idea of being a Karen, because I support the Democrats, I support the Republicans, I support government. I am a proud statist. I am also a proud supporter of the Karens, and not just that, Jim. I'll go one step further. I am proud to call myself a Karen too.
Okay. That's all right. Well, then he doesn't even need to apologize for giving you that beautiful new
Exactly.
term. It's like the sheeple thing. You're repurposing the Karen thing, right? Is that what it is?
Well, no, obviously, some people, like libertarians, are going to not like Karens because they don't see the value and virtue in them, and they have taken, like, Karen. I mean, in and of itself, it's a nice woman's name, right? And some and now we have given it has been imbued with this beautiful extra meaning of proactive obedience, of encouraging and obedience among other people. I mean, how much more beautiful and noble can you get than that? And some libertarians have twisted this into a negative and said that, oh, Karen is a narc or a rat. And it's like, no, being a Karen means without compensation, or at least without, I mean, there's a bigger compensation when you're a Karen. There's a satisfaction in knowing that you're cleaning up your community and that you're making the world a better place. But it's also kind of a selfless act without direct compensation. You are doing government's work for them without getting paid for that. And in and of itself, I suppose that's enough for me, at least for me as a Karen. That's reward. That's reward enough. And so being a Karen really means being a glorious servant of government, of the duopoly, and of the current authorities throughout the world. So be a Karen with me.
So we're already a few minutes over time. I think we should do our closing promos and wrap it up in case these people need to go do something that involves voting.
Yes, sir. Get out and vote. And we will be there with you on Tuesday. Don't forget to vote. Of course, a couple quick promos to get out of the way. If you go to cigarfederation.com and enter promo code ADAM10, ADAM10, all caps, that will get you 10% off your order. You could be like the Monopoly man smoking cigars and get a little taste of what it's like to be a banker and better than everybody else. If you want to help us debate, you can go to makethemdebate.com this is a really incredible opportunity that we have with this relatively new website to basically put statists in their place. I really want to make sure that, we help out the censors at YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, make sure that people get are protected from dangerous messages. So I'm looking at the Producers Club. There's a lot of comments in here, but I think they're just kind of speculative. People telling me how awesome I am. Hold on. I'm talking about producer CJ as opposed to our guest CJ today. Those are two different people, obviously. Let's see. There's a lot of people telling me in the producers chat that how awesome I am, how great government is. There's a lot of people just cheering on this message and backing us up. So I apologize for being distracted, but it's worth listening to our producers club and bringing those people into that, making sure that they're brought into this. So again, finally, you go to AdamLovesTheMan.com. That's right, this website right here, AdamLovesTheMan.com. You can find out how to support us on Patreon and with merchandise. I know we've got a little rebranding work there to do, but we'll get to it eventually. So please check that out, AdamLovesTheMan.com, our new website, and you can join the Producers Club for just $10 a month if you want to be a part of it there. Also, tomorrow being Friday, I think we're gonna do a call-in show. Be our first statist call-in show. So it's not gonna be no cat. Like today was Throwback Thursday. We're not doing Casual Friday. No, and being casual wasn't the point. I'm doing this because this is the message. Remember, Iraq veterans against the war. I'm against the Iraq war because it wasn't swift and efficient enough in killing people and bringing us closer to a global government, even though it was pretty good. It's taken way too long, and we didn't do enough to bring American fascism to the people of Iraq. So with that being said, we will talk to you tomorrow. War and slavery, all choose obedience, and don't forget to report your suspicious neighbors to the authorities.